documentary. Well, that hasn't happened, and it makes you wonder. I can imagine him at the meeting, you know, saying, I want to make a show about Africa, and them saying, wouldn't that be very expensive? You know, would it be great to have a privileged white man going to Africa to give this documentary? So that hasn't happened. So what has he been left with? You know, a programme about the poshest sport that there is.
The most privileged white man sport there is.
Is polo. I mean, my goodness, both these projects, you know, we've heard all these rumours about their deal with Netflix is going to come to an end shortly, at the end of this year probably. To me, this bears it out in a way, because both projects are very cheap. Netflix has got massive budgets, but instead it's just a cookery programme, you know, filmed at a house in Montecito, and polo, which kind of he does anyway, you know, take along a camera crew.
They've blown their budget on the deal, you know, that £100 million deal with Meghan and Harry.
I mean, what is much more interesting, though, is Meghan's programme, actually. Much more interesting, because from everything I hear, they see it as a chance to recoup some of the money for Netflix, because there are going to be commercial spin-offs from it.
We'll talk about that in a second, but I just want to stay on this polo match for the moment, because, Charlotte, there was some controversy, wasn't there, over Harry and Meghan on the polo field that's got a lot of people talking.
Yeah, so Meghan's mask slipped, for sure, and we saw her true colours, I'd say, and I've watched this clip 100 times, because Harry's standing there with his trophy, and a woman comes up and tries to stand next to him. Normal thing, you know, there's lots of people lined up, and Meghan just basically sort of verbally yanks her away from him and places this woman next to her, so she's not next to Harry, and she sort of points several times in this video, and you can see it online, there's a clip of it.
You serious?
And she says, would you like to stand over here? Would you like to stand over here? Over and over again. And it just shows how choreographed all of this is. And of course the Netflix cameras were rolling. But Meghan, I think in her mind, clearly, you know, she's got a very photographic mind, I'm guessing. She was imagining the photos, and she wanted to be the woman next to Harry, clearly. And I just think it just shows these things are very choreographed. And it's not the first time at a polo match that her mask has slipped either, because it happened in 2022 as well. She kept trying to edge her way to the front, holding her hat to the front of the same scene, the polo lineup. And she couldn't quite make her way with her hat underneath all their arms, and it was just it was choreography nightmare. And it goes to show she's desperate to be front and centre of these things.
And I have to say that this woman who was wanting to stand next to Harry, this wasn't just some beautiful model that's there for a pretty picture. This was actually Dr. Sophie Chanduka, who is the boss of Prince Harry's charity, Centre Barlow.
She has every right to stand next to him then.
You know, my goodness, that sort of dismissive tone with her is really cringe-making.
Yes, because she's very bossy. She really points and says, sort of get out of the way, as if she's a lackey.
Dr. Chanduka is a very distinguished character, so it's going to be interesting to see how long she remains in that job.
Well, and it was things that were a little bit more precisely planned was the jam presentation. Tell us, who got the jam? This is what I want to know.
Well, exactly, because I mean, I suppose, look, I'm not an influencer.
Oh, so you didn't get any jam?
Funny enough, no, but as I think I said before, I do have some of my mum's pickled onions, if anyone would like to share them after the show. They're very good, they're very strong. We have to say, we've got terrible problems with the post in Britain, so I'm sure that those hampers of jam are on their way to us as we speak.
Yes, and it's a preserve, so it will keep, don't it?
But it actually genuinely intrigues me how this works, because suddenly these pictures started popping up. I think we had 2 on one day, we've now had a third, to a lady who turns out to be the wife of the boss of Paramount. You know, you've got one of Meghan's friends, I think now, Mindy Kaling, I don't know if you pronounce her, who's quite a big figure in US entertainment, has appeared on Meghan's podcast. Suddenly, all very similarly posed pictures of this artfully arranged pot of jam in a basket of lemons, slightly inexplicably.
With the lid still on.
Yeah, and saying, oh, I love your jam, it's amazing, when clearly it hasn't even been opened. Yeah. You know, that stuff just doesn't
maybe they've had it
to
for
me.
breakfast before, when she's been making it around,
and all of them is numbered 1 to 50, so there must be a guessing game. So who got number 1? Who was number 50? Like, is this a pecking order of how important you are in terms of
I'd be offended if I got number 50 out of 50.
I have to say that King Charles might have the last laugh, though, because sources at his Highgrove shop in Gloucestershire tell me there's been a real run on his Highgrove strawberry conserve. So what's happened is these sort of loyal royalists, all this talk about Meghan's jam, well, they want to go and buy a pot of King's, the King's Good
and also,
conserve.
Is it mean of me to slightly observe that, Meghan's giving her food to rich influencers and William's out there today giving food to the needy?
Well, there is a point, and he did bring some stuff from his own kitchen to give to them. And of course, Highgrove jam and also Duchy Originals products. All of the money from Highgrove produce goes to charity. And the Duchy Original range, which Charles set up many years ago, all of it originally went to charity. Then they did a deal with Waitrose, which profits of it, but a significant proportion of the profits still go to the King's charities. So they're very, very different setups. So because I'm presuming, we haven't been told yet, but I'm presuming not a great portion of the jam money will go to.
We don't know how much this jam costs yet, but Meghan will charge $200 a pop because she thinks so well of it.
But we must admit, it's been a great publicity stunt.
There were some unwelcome headlines for Meghan Markle following an interview with a former senior palace courtier. Natasha Livingston and Richard Kay explain, while Richard Eden explains his story about Meghan's podcast plans hitting another snag.
Are you serious?
Samantha Cohen worked for the Queen, I think for around 17 years, so she was incredibly well experienced, and then went on to work for the Sussexes, and then left after, I think it was about 2 years. So she didn't stay with them for that long and did the job, I think, on the request really of the Queen. She's not spoken publicly about this time. Obviously loyal royal aides are normally very tight-lipped about these sort of things, but she is Australian and was interviewed by the Herald Sun. Most
of them have actually been cut off and they've actually ended up choosing William. The Vanderbanzes is a really good example because William's giving Tom Vanderbanzi's mum, Claire Vanderbanzi, an MBE, and that sort of put the Vanderbanzis in William's camp. And I'd say probably one of the last remaining joint friends they had was Tom Vanderbanzi, but anyway, they're over on Team William now. And then there's Mark Dyer. There's no one else. Nicky Scott from the Netflix documentary, he wasn't at the St Paul's Cathedral service. So it's really sad. And there's no Princess Eugenie. He was really good friends with Princess Eugenie. She wasn't there. That whole circle's just been cut off, really.
Well, in any case, well done for saying Vanderbanzi so many times so correctly. That was really well done.
Van for short. Yeah, in the future.
No, I like it. It sounds great. Richard, you also reported that Harry's had a legal setback in the US this week.
Yes, this is connected to a different charity, very good charity, Centre Barley, that Harry co-founded to help. It was African children orphaned because of the AIDS crisis. So it's a very good charity, but he's been trying to trademark various names in the USA, and they've all been rejected. All the applications have been rejected in quite a scathing kind of way by the authorities in the USA, that just, not adequate, you haven't given enough information. It seemed very kind of shoddy work. And also, unfortunately, it seems like the American branch of the charity hasn't been doing so well. Their donations to Centre Barley have halved over the past year. And given that Harry and Meghan are based in California, it's really striking. You would have thought that the fact they're there with all these rich friends and everything, that should boost donations, but that hasn't happened. So hopefully maybe that will in the future, because it is a charity that does a lot of good work.
In happier news now, royal garden parties returned to Buckingham Palace. The news coincided with a controversial new portrait of King Charles. Here is Rebecca English and the two Richards, Kay and Eden.
Last week I was at the first one of the season and it was working as always. I keep on telling them we don't even get to eat or drink. We're just racing around after people
here's
with
my
our
tiny violin.
I know.
Yeah.
But what was lovely about it was the King was back, and I had an exclusive actually the weekend before, just saying that he was going to be attending his first garden party of the year. Now the doctors have given him the go-ahead to do so. And actually what was lovely was he was so enthusiastic about it.
Serious?
I mean, he's clearly a man that's undergoing treatment. He doesn't look as well as he did, say, 18 months ago. But he was he was in just a really jolly mood and was, you know, glad-handing as many people as he could. And I was warned in advance that they might try to tweak a little bit, you know, that he might do 45 minutes instead of hour of meeting the public. He might shake less hands. But of course he listened to none of that and wanted to meet and greet as many people as possible.
I did seem to be enjoying meeting the very glamorous women there, I must say.
Well, wouldn't you? I mean, it's a great opportunity to get out your hats and your, you know, your posh frocks. And
there was all the models like Rosie Huntington-Whiteley and
that was the one this week. They did
yesterday.
Yeah, they did a special garden party for the entertainment and arts industry. And there was a great moment with Maya Jama when she said, you know, I host this programme called Love Island. I'm not sure you will have seen it. And he was like, well, there's one born every minute. You know, he was being quite skittish.
I didn't actually understand that. What did he mean by that?
I think it's to do with kind of love, and she was talking about snogging and things like that. So
blimey, he's talking about snogging with the king.
Yeah,
Mind boggles.
I can't keep track of that conversation at all. Richard Kay, back to some sense. You've been to plenty of these in your time, and now, other than being a royal correspondent like yourself and Rebecca, how does one get invited? Tell a needy, desperate Australian.
It's quite hard. You can't turn up and get one from a scalper from a ticket tout outside. You have to be invited. You can't apply for a ticket. Usually guests are chosen randomly from all walks of life.
Randomly?
Randomly, yes. By local government, by national government, the Lord Lieutenants of all our esteemed shire counties have a hand in who gets invited. People's names are put forward and then they get a list and they try to get am I right, Rebecca, sort of a representation, a cross-section of people from society, old and young, you know, new and old, whatever. And
I like the idea of, like, maybe one day my name will be randomly put into this big tombola and it'll come out and I'll finally get to go.
It could be something like that. And they are a very entertaining opportunity for people.
Okay.
And do they have any issues with people trying to snaffle little souvenirs?
Well, they did one year, because I was actually there that year, and it hailed, the heavens open. I've never seen hail like golf balls. And these tents aren't that big, so people were trying to shelter under them. So the minute the diplomatic royal tea tent exited, which is basically when the royal family leave and people can still stay there for another hour, they let people go in there. But then everyone started nicking the crockery, the knives, the forks, the spoons, the cups, everything. So then the next year we did the royal finances, they made a point of saying their spending was up on crockery because of the amount of stuff that people had nicked.
You can't trust anyone these
Unbelievable.
days.
Now, Richard Eden, with your social diary hat on, it's quite a badge of honour, isn't it, to be invited to the Royal Garden Party?
No, definitely. I mean, there's one thing I love about being in central London at this time of year is